I found out my daughter isn't mine, but I'll never let her go. I, 34M, don't usually write things online, but I've been reading stories on here for a while, and I guess I need to let this out. Maybe it'll help me think more clearly, or maybe I just need someone to hear me. Because in real life, I can't tell anyone. Not my friends, not my family, not even my wife. 7 years ago, I thought I had everything. I married my college sweetheart. We had a small wedding, nothing fancy, just friends and family. 2 years later, my daughter was born. I can still remember holding her in my arms for the first time. The tiny hat they put on her head, the way she gripped my finger with her whole hand. I cried. I'll admit that openly. It was the most beautiful moment of my life. For the first couple of years, I was the happiest man alive. But life doesn't always stay picture perfect. My wife and I started struggling financially. Bills piled up, rent went up, and it seemed like no matter how much I worked, it was never enough. I started working longer and longer hours. I'd leave before the sun came up, and most days I'd come home after my daughter was already asleep. That broke me inside. Every day I'd tell myself, it's worth it. She'll have food, clothes, toys, and she'll never feel the hunger I felt growing up. But the truth is, those were the hardest years of my life. I was exhausted, stressed, and even though I was breaking my back, my wife and I were constantly fighting. She wanted me home more, but then she also wanted better things for our daughter, a nicer apartment, dance lessons, trips. How was I supposed to give her that without working nonstop? We grew distant. It wasn't like we stopped loving each other overnight, but little by little, there was less warmth. She started going out with friends more, spending weekends visiting her sister. And I told myself I was just being paranoid, that she deserved a break, that I was the one not giving her enough attention. Fast forward about a year ago. We were arguing late at night, one of those pointless, tired arguments that happen after years of tension. She said something that froze me. Maybe if you were actually here, you'd know what it feels like to be a parent. I just stared at her. I said, "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" She immediately backtracked, said she was just angry that I was reading into it, but something about her face, the way she avoided my eyes, my gut told me there was more. That night, I couldn't sleep. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I'd throw up. I kept hearing her words over and over, and for the first time in my life, I had this terrifying thought. What if she isn't mine? I hated myself for even thinking it. That little girl was my entire world. She was 5 then, bubbly, funny, full of life. She loved climbing into my lap, begging me to play tea party or pretend doctor. She'd draw me little pictures of me and Daddy at school. The idea that she wasn't mine felt like a betrayal, not just from my wife, but from the universe itself.
But the thought wouldn't go away. So I did something I never imagined I'd do. I bought a home DNA test. I swabbed her cheek one morning while she was brushing her teeth and thought it was a funny game. She laughed like it was nothing. She had no idea that in that moment, her entire future, my entire future, was about to change. 2 weeks later, the results came. Not a match. I stared at the paper until the words blurred. I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe I did it wrong. I ordered a second test from a different company and waited again. Same result. That night, I sat in my car in the driveway for over an hour, crying so hard I couldn't breathe. The kind of cry where you're not even making sound, just gasping and shaking. I couldn't understand how this happened. Who was her real father? When did it happen? Did my wife know the whole time? I wanted to storm inside, throw the results at my wife, demand answers. But I didn't. Something in me told me to wait, to think. Because if I confronted her, she could use it against me. And here's the thing most people don't know. In the US, DNA doesn't automatically decide custody. What matters most to the courts is the best interest of the child. And after 7 years of being her dad, after school drop-offs, bedtime stories, doctor visits, scraped knees, Christmas mornings, birthday parties, I knew in my heart that I was her dad, not the guy who happened to share her DNA. So I made a choice. I didn't tell my wife what I knew. Instead, I started preparing, quietly. I started documenting everything. I kept a journal of every school event I attended, every parent-teacher conference, every dentist appointment, every time she stayed with me while my wife went out. I kept receipts of things I bought for her. I began building a picture of myself as the stable, reliable parent. I also started going to therapy. At first, it was for me to deal with the crushing reality that my wife betrayed me. But then I realized it also created a record. Proof that I was working on myself, that I was mentally stable, that I was prioritizing my daughter's well-being. Judges look at that. At the same time, I started saving money, quietly putting aside whatever I could for a lawyer. Because when the day comes, I'll need someone damn good in my corner. I've read everything I can about custody laws in my state, and here's what gives me hope. If I've acted as the legal father, if I've been the one raising her, loving her, supporting her, then the court can and will keep me as her custodial parent, even without DNA, especially if the alternative is someone unstable or someone who'd rip her away from the only father she's ever known. Right now, my daughter is 7. She doesn't know anything. She calls me Daddy. She hugs me when I come home. She makes me little drawings for my birthday. She trusts me, and I will never, ever betray that trust. So yeah, I know the truth, but she doesn't. And until the day comes when everything unravels, I'll keep loving her the same way I always have. And when I finally file for divorce, I'll be ready. My wife thinks she has the upper hand. She thinks she can keep this secret forever. But she doesn't know I already know. And by the time she realizes, it'll be too late. Because no matter what it costs me, time, money, reputation, I will fight tooth and nail to keep my daughter with me. She may not share my blood, but she shares my life, my love, my heart. And that's what makes me her father.
I knew the day would come. For a whole year, I'd been preparing in silence, living 2 lives at once. To the outside world, I was just another tired husband, stuck in a failing marriage, trying to make things work. But inside, I was a man with a plan. Every smile at dinner, every polite good night, every forced small talk with my wife, it was all part of buying time. I wasn't going to blow up and give her the chance to strike first. Divorce in America is war, and whoever files first with a solid case usually has the advantage. So when I finally walked into my lawyer's office with a thick binder of notes, receipts, journals, and therapy records, he looked at me and said, "You've been preparing for this, haven't you?" I just nodded. The paperwork was filed a week later. My wife was served on a Tuesday afternoon. I wasn't there, but I imagine her shock when the envelope landed in her hands. She thought she had me trapped, that I'd keep breaking my back, working, keep ignoring the cracks in our marriage, keep pretending. But now, the tables had turned. The night after she was served, she confronted me. She stormed into the living room, waving the divorce papers, her voice sharp and trembling. "You think you can just take her from me? You think a judge will give her to you?" I didn't answer at first. I let her rant. She accused me of being selfish, of wanting to punish her. Then she said something that almost made me laugh. "You're not even her real father." There it was, the slip I had been waiting for. She thought she had just landed the killing blow. Instead, she walked straight into the trap. I looked her in the eye and said, quietly, "I know." The color drained from her face. She froze, like she'd seen a ghost. What do you mean, you know? She stammered. I've known for over a year. I did the tests, twice. And I still tuck her in every night. I still take her to school. I still hold her when she cries. Because she's my daughter. She always will be. And you thought you could keep this from me forever. You thought you could use it against me. But you waited too long.
She exploded, yelling, throwing insults. But I just sat there, calm. Because I knew every word coming out of her mouth was another nail in her own coffin. I had recordings of her rages, screenshots of her late-night texts when she thought I wasn't paying attention, a paper trail of her irresponsibility. The custody hearing started a few months later. My lawyer was a shark. He laid out everything. My consistent role as the primary caregiver, the stable job I'd held for years, my clean record, therapy attendance, and the stable home I had prepared. Evidence of her neglect, nights out, missed school meetings, unstable employment. When her attorney tried to bring up DNA, mine immediately countered. Your Honor, the legal father is the man who has raised this child for 7 years. Paternity is not in question here. The child knows him as her only father, and removing her from his care would cause severe psychological harm. We even had a child psychologist testify. They explained that a child at 7 forms deep attachments, and tearing her away from the father she's bonded with would be traumatizing. My wife tried to fight back. She tried painting me as controlling, distant, always at work. But she underestimated how much preparation I had done. Every claim she made, I had documentation to counter it. Every insult, I had proof to the contrary. By the second hearing, it was clear the judge saw through her. And then came the moment I'll never forget. Her attorney, almost out of desperation, brought up the DNA again. He said, Your Honor, biologically, this man is not the father. The mother acknowledges this. Shouldn't custody reflect biological reality? The judge leaned forward, looked at both of us, and then at me. Biology isn't the only factor here. In the eyes of this court, fatherhood is about care, stability, and love. This child has known him as her only father her entire life. Removing her from that bond would not be in her best interest. I almost cried right there in the courtroom. The final ruling came weeks later. Joint legal custody, primary physical custody to me. My wife would get visitation rights, but the majority of time, my daughter would live with me. When my wife heard it, she broke down crying. But I didn't feel pity. She had made her choices years ago. She thought she could lie, cheat, and then still hold the upper hand. But love, real love, beats lies every time. That night, I tucked my daughter into her new room in my apartment. She had decorated it with unicorn posters and stuffed animals. She hugged me tight and whispered, I love you, Daddy. And that's when it hit me. None of the legal battles, none of the lies, none of the pain mattered anymore. Because in her eyes, I was, and always will be, her dad. And by the time her mother realized I need the truth, it was too late.